Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we're done with Toads. Now we're all about Poplins. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I'm always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
It's going great. I saw something really magical today that I want to share with you.
Very good.
I saw online somebody posting a picture of a Cooking Mama DS.
Like a special
tattoo.
edition. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on. I was
On-
picturing hardware.
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Yes.
No. This was on somebody's arm.
Uh-huh.
As far as look, not everything that you see on the internet is real, but I want to believe that
Right.
this is real. It was the Cooking Mama DS like box art
Yes.
from the Nintendo DS,
Right.
but it was on somebody's arm.
I mean, I would believe that.
Yeah.
That's a cool tat. Like,
That makes me think
Hmm.
if I don't have any tattoos,
right.
Patrick, if you were going to get a video game tattoo,
Yeah.
what would you get?
One-up mushroom.
A one-up mushroom. That's pretty good.
I mean, I've thought about doing this before.
Oh,
getting, like,
okay, all right,
getting
you
the
already knew.
The pixelated, like, 8-bit, probably the 16-bit one-up mushroom,
Uh-huh.
I think.
That's pretty good.
I don't know where I would get it is the thing. Like,
mm.
anywhere seems stupid. Do you have? I mean, I know, like, I like the Triforce, but that feels trite. You
Mhm.
know?
I mean, I think all of that can look really cool. Here's the thing. Here's a character that I don't really care about, and I might even get his name wrong.
Okay.
Kind of want to get
Sylvando. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, Biggs the cat.
Yeah, I think it's just Big the Cat.
See, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the Sonic franchise.
Uh-huh.
We
I think
see
he's so dumb looking.
he's really dumb looking.
Yeah, I think it'd be funny.
You know, Captain Toad would be a pretty good
That
tattoo
would
as
be
well.
very good.
And then you
yeah.
could get him like somewhere hidden that like you have to reveal that like here's where the Captain Toad is.
Yeah, that's right.
Mark, you know that I have been paying attention to this Metal Gear Solid collection, right?
Yes.
And that I'm interested in it and I'm going to buy it on some platform. I don't think it's going to be Switch. But one of the things that I was complaining about was that it does not include the Metal Gear Solid VR missions, a separate
Right.
release, right? Turns out it does.
Wait, what?
I know. This is something that they have not been like advertising or saying, and it's not like included as its own like separate thing that you choose.
They're ashamed of it.
You go into Metal Gear Solid and then like the VR missions are all in there.
Whoa.
Yeah. And it says this in the product description on the PlayStation Store, but I've literally seen it nowhere else. That all of the VR missions are there.
Okay. So, is it because you have a PSVR, the original?
Okay, I'm going to jump in here because they are not actually VR experiences.
Oh.
They are VR for the character of Solid Snake, but you're still playing a video game. It's not a VR game. And I understand that can be confusing.
Yes. Yes. I see.
Yeah.
Okay. I somehow, and the math is loose here, but somehow I think that existing puts us in a better position for that like Metroid collection that you've been talking about, where it's like Metroid Pinball.
Yeah. Well, this is the Metroid Prime trilogy asterisk. Yeah, it has Metroid Prime Pinball, Metroid Prime Hunters, and Metroid Prime Federation Forces.
Yeah. See, I think we are now primed
Yeah.
for Nintendo to announce a
Perfect.
Metroid Prime
Use
trilogy.
of language, Mark.
Metroid Prime trilogy.
Mhm.
And then we'll ask these same questions. Where's Metroid Prime Pinball?
Yep.
Where's Metroid Prime Hunters? And then they'll release it,
Right.
and they'll be on there.
And everyone will be happy.
And you won't need a VR headset for it, because that's not really what VR
No.
mission means anyways.
Right, exactly. But so that was my number one Metal Gear discovery today. Mark, I've made a second Metal Gear Solid discovery today, and it is that Konami has announced a Metal Gear Solid fragrance, a unisex cologne.
Perfect for the holidays.
Perfect for the holidays for the Metal Gear Solid fan in your life. And I'm wondering, you're not that familiar with the Metal Gear franchise,
No.
right? So it wouldn't be fun to have me make you guess what the name of the fragrance is, right?
I don't think so.
Okay, it's Shadow Moses, the name of the island that you go to in the first one, and then return to in 4. But yeah, there's a Metal Gear Solid fragrance
Called Shadow Moses?
called Shadow Moses.
Ooh, that's good.
And it's themed after the scent is themed after the island itself.
So it's like tropical.
No, because it's like a snowy. We should play Metal Gear Solid. That's what I'm getting from this.
I guess I should know this because that's the level in Super Smash Brothers.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But I mean, like, what's funny is there are a couple of like scents that are like I mostly think like that should smell like cardboard box and cigarettes, you know, like that's
Yes.
or it should smell
Those
like,
would have been my guesses as somebody
Yeah.
who's not that familiar with the series.
but it's maybe impossible to tell. I feel like I need to get my hands on some of this stuff because it'll be fun and funny. But if you want to help us do that, you can go to patreon.com/Nintendo Cartridge Society and check out what we have to offer there. If you are supporting us at the 8-bit or 16-bit levels, you can check out the NCS Goes Broadway. It's a miniseries that we are currently approaching the end of, where we talk about Broadway musicals and, of course, off-Broadway musicals such as
The last 5 years.
Yes, well, and I was going to say, and such as November's entry, which I guess did come to Broadway eventually, but it started off Broadway, Little Shop of Horrors.
Yes. Very fun episode, very fun musical. Looking forward to that releasing in just a little bit. But then, this is your last opportunity if you are a Patreon subscriber or if you've been thinking about becoming a Patreon subscriber and you need a little push. You only have a few more days to vote to decide what the next miniseries will be.
Yep. So get on over to Nintendo Cartridge or Patreon.com/Nintendo Cartridge Society and vote. You can vote regardless of what level you are supporting us at. It's open to all levels. Dan asked if that was part of the chaos. It is. It's planned. We like it that way. So get in there and help determine what we're going to be talking about for the next 6 months or whatever. And then also we've got a Discord where people are talking about Nintendo and talking about this show and talking about what we're talking about in 433. It's a good time to get in there. All you got to do is email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com and we will send you an invitation. Mark, we've got a new Mario game to talk about.
Oh man, I'm excited. Let's do it.
Super Mario Brothers Wonder. Released October 20th, 2023. Here we are a couple days later. We have been playing it. Mark, where are you current? I want to get like just like overall kind of snapshots because we've not talked about it much on this show.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I guess we talked about it a little bit as we discussed the developer interviews around it. But you know, how are you feeling, just generally speaking, and where are you in the game right now?
Yeah, I have not beaten the game, so I am. Oh, before we dive into details, I don't. So, generally speaking,
Yeah,
I
this
would
is
say
a-
that like
yeah.
a Super Mario Brothers 2D side scroller does not necessarily warrant spoiler warnings, but a lot of the fun of Super Mario Brothers Wonder is the joy of discovery and surprise. And so if you haven't played the game or you are a little bit worried about that, I think we're just going to talk freely about our experience. And so that will be things that happen in specific levels. You know, I don't know the names of levels off the top of my head, so we're not going to probably be like calling that out. But generally speaking, I think we're just going to talk freely about our experience and the things that we've seen and done.
Yes.
So I guess general like blanket spoiler warning, depending on your experience and want with the game.
Well, so just to sort of tag on to that, I have beaten Super Mario Brothers Wonder. I did it just a couple hours ago before I came over to record. And there is something that happens in the end of the game that I if I do spoil it here, I will, like flashing red lights and like sirens and stuff. You will know, because it is one of those surprises that Mark you're sort of alluding to. That I think we will mention the surprises as they appear throughout the game, just sort of generally. But the sort of end game situation there, I will not spoil unless like.
Yeah, because I'm not even sure I want to know.
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm eager to talk about it with someone, but I don't want to remove that experience for you or dull that experience for you. So I'll speak about it more generally in a way that I don't think will ruin it. But yeah, generally speaking, it's a Mario platformer. So like Bowser's there.
There's a desert world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so that's actually exactly where I am. I'm in the desert world, which is the fourth world, and so I was really excited for this game when it was announced in June. It was kind of like a momentous occasion to be experiencing a new type of Mario platformer.
Yes.
It was a big deal when New Super Mario Brothers was revealed and released in 2006, and it's a big deal when the New Super Mario Brothers series is kind of being retired for something new.
Yes.
And when I first started Wonder, I enjoyed it, but I was kind of like overwhelmed with the newness of it.
Now that's interesting.
And the ways that it is different from like Mario platformers of the past. But the more that, and I never like disliked it, but it took me a while to, I guess like, I don't know, settle into it. That's not really the right word.
That's so interesting because I feel like I didn't see the depths of how it was different until a little ways in.
Oh yeah,
my experience early on was being like, oh, maybe this is kind of New Super Mario Brothers Z.
See, that is really interesting because my experience was the opposite, where I started and was like, oh, does this feel like Mario to me?
Whoa.
Like, or what is this?
Yeah.
And then it was after playing
Jack Skellington stuff.
And then it was only after playing it for a while that like the pieces that were kind of jarring for me, I began to appreciate, and then I have just like really embraced it and I really love it. But yeah, in the beginning, I did find it a little bit jarring.
Can you, and it's okay if you can't, because I understand that some of this is just like a vibes thing, but can you identify any of the things that didn't feel like Mario?
Yes, there are like two pieces.
Yeah.
One, and they're both things that I really love now, but in the beginning, I found, I was just kind of like, is this Mario? One is the sound design and the music.
Yeah.
So in a Mario game, 2D platformer previously, the like background music of a level was incredibly prominent. That I would say, that was like the primary thing that you were hearing.
Yeah.
And that is not the case in Super Mario Brothers Wonder. The sound design, the sound like mixing what is important and elevated in a level is varies. And it varies by level by level, and it also varies within levels. And if you're playing online, and like there's all these different,
and what power up you have,
and so the game is incredibly musical in ways that it wasn't before. And so it just means that
and dynamic in that musicality too. That like it's I mean let's pull the Band-Aid off of this one and just discuss it now. But the second level Wonderflower effect, the piranha plants like jump out of their pipes and start singing a song to you, and they're actually singing that song. So if you run away from them, the song, the volume of their singing goes down. If you kill them, they stop singing.
Because they're dead. They don't exist anymore.
Yeah. But like that's all part of it, that the soundscape is unfolding for Mario or whoever you're playing as it is for you. And so it all feels like more diegetic to the experience of the game. Feels more experiential to me.
Absolutely.
In a lot of ways. And the music is a prime example of that.
Yeah. One thing that I think the P-switch, or, like the switch you hit to make coins appear for a while, is a really good example of it. They've changed the music from like the traditional P-switch music. And to me, it's much more like Looney Tunes, like classic like Looney Tunes, a little like zanier, a
Yeah,
little like
okay.
more a like faster tempo, a little bit more intense, or like when you ground pound and if you're like doing yes,
Yeah.
exactly. You know,
Little
like
drum roll.
there's just all of these new sounds, and that took me a little bit to get used to. Not that it didn't feel necessarily right off the bat like Mario to me.
Yeah.
Like the traditional new Super Mario Brothers, or even like Mario Brothers, the overworld theme is prominent, and so that was one.
Yeah, well, and I'll just also add on to that some of these sound effects too are given a more sort of like analog quality to them. If you kind of like really pay attention to like in New Super Mario Brothers or even in like Odyssey or Galaxy, when you're throwing fireballs, it is like a variation on that like 8-bit or 16-bit like putt 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 sound. And they've like drastically changed that here. Not and like the character of it is the same, but it is no longer in that sort of like 18-bit, 16-bit fidelity. So like the coin collection sound, the jump sound, all of it is altered ever so slightly to feel more organic and less like a video game.
And then the other piece of it was playing online. So from the beginning, I had like online enabled, so I was seeing other players' shadows, and that also felt weird to me because I don't know, it just wasn't like with all of this, it wasn't like bad. It was just I was wrapping my head around all of it, like the entire thing.
Right.
And the online specifically, like the only way I want to play this game right now is online, because I think it's so much
Fascinating.
I think it's so much fun to see the other like player shadows, to see people running around, to see people helping each other like in the search party levels.
Yep.
And everybody's communicating with like smiley faces, because that's the old, or like crouching.
Right.
So that's like the only thing you can do. But in the beginning, it was
You could send music notes, or you could send. Is there like a question block? And there's one more thing that you can emote with.
But just like having other players like running around, and
Yeah.
sometimes they'd be in the foreground or the background, like it took me a little bit of getting used to like playing a Mario game that way. But now I can't imagine playing it offline, which I've done a little bit here and there, but I prefer it online.
I've probably flipped that I've mostly done offline, but have like dipped into the to the online when like I get into some of the later levels, and I want to be precise, or need to be precise. That's kind of when I'm like, you know what, I'll turn off the ghosts, and then I just don't turn it back on. Now that I have finished the game and I'm like running back through levels, picking up stuff that I missed because I didn't get everything on my first time through, maybe this is the perfect time to like turn that back on and just like see other people collecting stuff. Okay, so those were the two things that to you at first were like, this is not Mario.
It doesn't feel like a Mario game.
Right.
And so and honestly, like in the beginning, the first couple levels, like that second Wonder Flower that you hit and it turns into like the singing piranha plants, delightful. But there were a few in there that I was like, I don't know, this is just kind of feeling like I don't know, like the Wonder Flowers, I'm not that crazy about this.
I mean, I will say that like the Wonder Flower as a concept, very good. And there are some of the coolest things I've experienced in games as the result of a Wonder Flower. But some of them, kind of just are like, a lot of stars fall from the sky in this one, you know?
But that's how I felt in the beginning. And I think some of the like weaker ones are in the beginning. But then the more I play, the more I'm delighted and surprised by some of them, and they make me laugh. Or like when Mario just turns into a big block and you have to like jump around, or he turns into, they love this one, I think they used it twice, when you turn into one of those big jumpy enemies that jump when you jump.
Oh yeah,
and you can just like go infinitely basically
yep,
until
yep.
you want to stop.
Hoppy Cat.
Hoppy Cat,
yep.
and there's the giant Hoppy Cat, like that one. When you turn into a balloon guy and you're just bouncing around all
Yep,
over. I
those
mean,
are
it's
fun.
they're just like it's
All
so
of the
good.
transformation ones I think are actually quite fun. Like I wonder if that's just like something they learned from Odyssey, where they're like, oh yeah, it's fun to be an enemy for like one level, for one little stretch, one little like accomplishment, one goal of a level. There's one of my favorite transformations, and they also do this one a couple times. You turn into like a little blob, like a red blob, or at least I was playing as Mario, so it was red. And he would like sticks to walls and like ceilings and stuff. And I absolutely loved it. And then there's another one that I don't want to spoil, and it's in the lava level, so I won't. But there's it's a level where you are keep encountering these dragon skeletons that are like curled up in a mostly a circle shape, but there's like a little cutout, and it does something to transform that experience
Fun.
in a way that's like super great. Like it brought me like giggling joy when it happened.
So you've beaten it.
Yes.
And so what was you were saying, your experience from the beginning, you were like, oh, this is just a Mario game, and then the further you got into it, it felt more like a change.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it took me getting to maybe the second world, so like the Fluff Puff peak, and the specifically getting to the challenging level in the special world off of Fluff Puff Peak, which is the first time I had like a kind of like pull my hair out, I can't believe how hard this level is experience, that I just loved, and was like laughing maniacally while like trying to keep up with it and being like, all right, this time let's go. And I found that I was having more experiences like that, even when they weren't those like ultra challenging bits. That the game was finding like even more surprising ways to engage me than I was in the first little bit. I do still find I love this game. I think it's fantastic, but I do still find that like every now and then when I've been playing for like an hour and a half or something, I get that same sort of like drag on my enthusiasm as I would like playing a new Super Mario Brothers game. And maybe it just means I haven't hit like the right combination of Wonderflower experiences. And also, I do go ahead. It seems like you want to tag onto that.
No. I this feels like we're jumping to the end, but I am loving Super Mario Brothers Wonder.
Yes.
But this is the first time that I've played a 2D Mario game, and I have thought, I think actually maybe I like 3D Mario better now.
Well, that's interesting because I feel like the new Super Mario Brothers games are look, they at their best, they feel pretty good to me, right? And I feel like they never even engaged in that question, right? Like you play New Super Mario Brothers Wii, and you're like, this is fun, I'm enjoying this, but it never makes you say, now is this better or is Galaxy better? You're just like, Galaxy's better. But I think part of the like reason that you could even like make the argument that 2D Mario, as a genre is better, is because like two of the best games ever made, Super Mario Brothers 3 and Super Mario World, are among that class. But I mean, I agree with you. This feels like the realization of the best of 2D Mario, and I'm like, yeah, but I think Odyssey's better.
Well, and I think you can start making, in a weird way, you can start making those more direct comparisons because, like we were talking about on Tuesday's episode, they've started drawing a lot of inspiration
Absolutely, yeah.
from 3D Mario, and that idea of like discovery and surprise and all of that stuff.
Right. And like no more time limits, so you can explore the area.
And it works great. Like I really am loving this game, but it's making me realize how well developed those same concepts and ideas are in a game like Super Mario Odyssey.
Yeah. So I mean, I think I agree with you that I come away from this going like, I liked 3D Mario better, but this game is
amazing.
It's amazing, yeah. So like on the note of, I would be playing for like an hour and a half or 2 hours and be like, maybe I can like stop this and do something else. The game never suggests that. Which, and maybe Nintendo's just been moving away from this in the last couple of years. But the last time I played a new 2D Mario game was the new Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe. I guess the original. I don't actually have Deluxe. You do. I don't. But it will ask you every like 45 minutes, like, hey, do you think you should take a break? And what was it that it was something on 3DS that I was playing where every time it suggested it, I was like, yep, okay, great. I'll put this down. I'll put it away. It might have been a Fire Emblem or like Link Between Worlds or something. And I was like playing for like kind of a long stretch last night, and was struck by the fact that the game hadn't suggested that I stop playing it. It just seems like Nintendo's over that now.
Yeah, what a weird, because I absolutely remember that from the Wii era, and how funny that it happened all the way up through
3DS,
the like 3DS era. So it was
Mhm.
not that long ago that
Right.
Nintendo would like interrupt your experience with a picture of an open window and like a curtain flapping in the breeze,
Right.
to like
just tell you to
suggest
touch
go-
grass. Yeah. yeah. That's it's a fairly humiliating experience every time it pops up.
Not as bad as the Netflix. Are you still watching this? Like, are you for real that you've been binging this many episodes on purpose?
I was watching something on Peacock. I was watching 30 Rock. And it came up with that little prompt of like, are you still watching? But just like played the episode. Like it didn't pause it. I wonder if I had said like no, that it would have like undone that progress. So that,
sure,
like, I
yeah,
could go back and watch those episodes. But it's funny that it was like, are you still watching? Because I'm still playing.
Right, yeah. I'm still going to show these ads.
Right.
We're going to count this as revenue.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, I guess that's the difference between Netflix doesn't have ads. So yeah, that's right. You are correct. But yeah, so this does seem like a game that Nintendo is content to have you binge or play in whatever lengths you want.
Let's talk about some of the new things in the game.
Yes.
So let's talk about the new enemy types,
Mhm.
because there's a ton of them in this game. And, I realized that I, in a lot of ways, like a Mario 2D platformer traditionalist, or was up until this point. Because I feel this way with power-ups, and I feel this way with like new enemies. Like I can't even remember really in the new Super Mario Brothers series if there were new enemy types, but
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where you get like variations on like thwomps and stuff, but like everything else is mostly as it always is.
And I feel like in the new Super Mario Brothers series, personally, other than the propeller hats, and possibly like sometimes I thought the tiny mushrooms were a fun challenge
Tiny mushrooms are
to
fun.
make it
Yeah.
through a level far enough to get to the like tiny mushroom entrance. But otherwise, I kind of feel like the power-ups introduced in that game are duds.
Squirrel suit and propeller hat are too dang similar. I mean, let's just be honest, the penguin suit looks dumb.
The penguin suit is not great, and like ice flower,
Fine.
sure, okay.
But so I guess before, because there are far fewer power-ups than there are enemies. But let's just talk about the new power-ups, because there's really only 3, right?
Right, elephant,
Uh-huh.
bubble, and drill.
And I guess like drill is even kind of just like a variation on a Super Mario Galaxy power up, maybe Galaxy 2, I forget. But that was one. The drill was a power up that I remember seeing in the like lead up to the release and being like, that'll be fun, that'll be cool. But I actually find its implication to be like kind of limiting and not really that much fun. But the elephant is like my default. Like,
Elephant is so fun.
Elephant's so fun. Just having that like front attack, it's very much like the cape or like Tanuki or whatever. But just being that much bigger, I don't know. It just feels great.
I feel like they do such a good job with the elephant, because I can imagine a version of it where it like makes you slow,
Yeah.
and you can't jump as high and all that
Yes.
kind of stuff. And they don't
They don't do
any
that at
of
all.
that.
No. They're
And-
just like, he's bigger, he's got a trunk, and that's it.
He can still go through pipes,
Uh-huh.
like all that kind of stuff. And
He's
it makes
also so much funnier as an elephant.
so it's like the perfect implementation of that. It doesn't limit.
Mhm.
It just adds to the fun instead of like limiting your ability to do
Yes.
what
Yes.
like Mario does well, which is fun platforming.
And then there's the bubble flower, which at first I was not happy about bubble flower. Now it's sort of my preferred when I'm not like running through as like the elephant. It's my preferred like extra kind of attack. Like I think it's better than fire flower.
And what is it about? Because I have not used Bubble that much. I think when I first got Bubble, and what I remember from the like presentations is that you could use it as for like an extra jump. But I don't really
That's
think it's
tricky
very
to do.
good for that.
Yeah, I will agree that it is not very good for that. What it's great for is like running around and just like throwing out 2 bubbles and knowing that enemies will encounter those bubbles shortly, and you're just taking them out preemptively. You're like, anyone who's going to get in my way, I'm just going to take you down now. It's also really good at getting rid of enemies that are tough to kill otherwise, where like you have to jump on them a weird way, or they take a couple different like fireballs or whatever. You can just like mute them really fast.
And if I'm remembering right, the bubbles kind of like go towards an enemy when they get close.
Yeah, if they're like a little bit above or a little bit below, or even just like a little bit away when they stop moving, they will sort of home in on the enemies.
So 3 like pretty good entries. I agree with you. The drill, probably like my least favorite.
Yeah, well, and the drill is the most where it's like they set up a puzzle that you need to solve with the drill, and it's not like hard to do it. You're just like, oh, I need the drill for this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it just feels like a little less fun than the other 2.
I have a list here of all of the new enemies.
Oh my god.
So should we just quickly run through? Well, by saying I have a list, I'm looking at Screen Rant's list of all of the new enemies.
Oh, very good.
So-
I am on the Mario Wiki right now.
Okay,
looking
great.
At the Super Mario Brothers Wonder new enemies.
Should we just run through them real quick?
Sure.
Okay, so Hoppy Cats.
Already mentioned. They're great. When you jump, they jump.
It's such a fun, like, sometimes it's just such a fun puzzle to try to
Yes.
figure out like the timing of it.
Right, and be like, okay, so I need to like get him up on that platform, so I got to jump to make him do that. I also like the level where there's like a platform that you're riding, and there's a Hoppy Cat that like lives inside it. So
yes,
you jump to
you like
shoot
shoot
the
it out
Hoppy
like a
Cat.
cannon.
Yep.
Yeah, that one's fun. Con darts. They're like the birds that land in. They'll go in your direction and kind of like stick to the ground. You can
Yeah, they're kind of like mini thwomps in that way.
I don't particularly care for
They're
con
fine.
darts. Yeah. The melon piranha plants that shoot watermelon seeds.
That seems like a lateral move from.
You can jump on the seeds.
Yes, the seeds don't hurt you.
I feel like
think
if
they
you
just
like
move you
land right
around.
on top of it,
Okay,
they
okay.
don't hurt you. But if you encountered it from the side, maybe it would. Conks. So these are like thwomps that move around, and
those are fun.
they target like specifically where you are.
I like that they slice through the jelly that you're like swimming through. I think that's very cool. And very Super Mario Land 2E. Like it feels very much like the sap in those tree levels.
Mumsies. These are the tall mummies
Yeah.
that you can pull and unwrap.
These guys are super fun. I always forget as I'm like pulling their loose threads that like I can jump and like go to other platforms and stuff. I'm always looking for like a long enough runway.
Yes, yeah, totally.
Even though you totally don't need to do that. And also I throw fireballs at them a lot to like just bounce them away so then I can grab their loose threads and unravel them.
I like that this grabbing thing is a mechanic throughout
Yes.
the game. Like there are areas where there's just these like handles that
These
you
little
grab
pull tabs,
onto,
yeah.
and you pull them, and something happens when you do. Sometimes
Yep.
levels are built around you needing to pull them before, like an enemy or something
Mhm.
traps you. Mamas.
Mamas. I think the mamas are hilarious. They look so derpy when they're
They
just like
do.
walking
Yep.
around, their big dumb tongue sticking out, and then they see something that they want to eat, and their eyes go wide, and so does their jaw. And then they just like run towards the thing that they're trying to eat. It's very funny to me.
The snails. There's snails all over this game.
Yeah,
Big snails, little snails.
Yeah, and the snails like introduce a level of 3D to the game that like because they will climb up like things that are like platforms that are effectively in the background, right? Like they will create a thing that you can jump on that's like not part of the interactable plane
Yes.
yet.
Exactly. It's like I think what you're describing is like imagine there is a background level where there's like a wall or a pipe or something.
Yeah.
And the snail is climbing up it vertically, and so because its shell like comes into your plane,
Yes.
you can then jump
Yes.
on the snail's shell.
Right. So you can interact with those things that are in like a plane behind the plane that you're currently on.
This one doesn't have I know these have a name, but it's not named on this list, but it's the ones that run away from you. The kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
like the big
The big squirrels that spit skedaddlers.
yeah,
is what they're called.
skedaddlers. Love a skedaddler.
Skedaddlers are very funny. They're very weird. They have a turtle shell on their back. Does that
Uh-huh.
make any sense to you?
And then blomps.
Which
or
one?
bloomps.
What's a bloomp?
Bloomps. It's like the big balloon fish.
Oh,
creatures?
bloops. They're wonderful.
I love bloomps.
They make dumb little fart noises when you jump on them.
But you can jump on them, and there's like
In fact, you have to.
You have to.
frequently,
Oh, so good.
There's also the Armods, the like armadillo guys that are kind of Koopa-y in that like you reduce them to a shell and then like throw them around.
I don't think they're on this list, but what is the name of the there's like the little enemies that have like the ripcord type thing, and you pull them back and they have to face a certain direction, then they like
Yeah.
take off and
Those-
start like rolling.
Those are revers.
Those are good too.
Yeah, the dry bones like wheeled enemies where you pull a chain and then they run whatever direction they're pointed. I really liked. Hold on, I just lost them. Oh, I mean, obviously bull rushes that used frequently in Wonder Flowers as like a stampede of them. Fun to like ride around on. Who else we got here?
Those like purple hippo ball type things. I don't even know if I'd call those enemies.
The Hoppos.
But yeah, they're just they
I
just bounce you
assume
around.
is short for hippopotamus. I like those guys too. I like that they're just like gently walking around until you like hop on them and then they're like, whoa,
Whoa!
here I
Yep.
go. They're very good. The Noshers, they're like chain chomps but without a chain, and they like fly and they can like chomp through blocks and platforms that you may need to ride around on. Of course, Koopa's on roller skates.
Oh my gosh. And this is not an enemy per se, although I guess you're racing it. But when you're doing those race levels,
Yes.
a Wiggler and roller skates.
Yeah.
Maybe that is what I would get as my tattoo.
Is a Wiggler on roller
I
skates?
love these roller skates that the Wigglers, the
Yeah.
Koopa Troopas, all of them have the ones that have roller skates. They're like pink. It's so fun. I love these guys.
I'm just gonna say a phrase, and we can either like it and talk about it or move on. Super Starlight Express.
And starring an all Wiggler cast.
Whoa! All Wiggler? Let's see. There's also the Outmaways, which are like little Goomba-looking guys that like throw stuff at you. You can try like kicking a shell at them, but they will grab it and kick it back to you. Who else? Okay. Not until the like final Bowser level, or not the final Bowser, but like the Bowser world, where we're introduced to the Missile Megs.
I haven't run into them yet.
Yeah, so it's only in that final. So we've seen them in the trailer. I don't know if you remember like a scene of like maybe 4 Yoshis all together, and there are like what seem to be long purple bullet bills coming out of the sky.
Okay.
So this is Missile Meg. It is it's a variation on
okay.
a bullet bill. that is longer and rideable. And so there are a lot of fun like puzzles that way that they sort of become like moving platforms. And they serve in some ways a similar role that the dolphins play in Super Mario World, which makes me think, when are we going to get Dr. Missile Meg?
Dr. Mario World, you were taken from us too soon.
Too soon. And then there are also Seeker Bullet Bills, which is a fun enemy type that I just want to talk about for a second. Another one that doesn't appear until the Bowser World, where it's a bullet bill who like seems to have like its cannon attached to it. So it'll kind of like home in on where Mario is, fire, and then when it hits a wall or a platform, so it can destroy blocks, but when it hits like a wall or a platform, it like stops and then like remounts itself and then does it again. So like it can hunt you down, and in a room where there are like 3 or 4 of them, it takes a lot of maneuvering to not just get shot by these Seeker Bullet Bills.
This is making me realize there are so many new enemy types in the
Yes.
game, plus a lot of classic
Mhm.
Mario enemies, and it all works.
Totally, yes. Yeah, the new additions feel like, I would say the one place where the new additions don't totally feel like they fit to me are the bird type enemies.
Yeah.
There's you mentioned the
I don't like the con darts at all. The
Yeah.
ones that like kind of like create platforms for you, I thought those were fun.
I think they're fun. Yeah, they're bluebirds.
Yeah.
BLEW. I think those are fun. I feel like the design of them doesn't necessarily jive with like Goombas and Koopas and stuff.
There's
but-
also the like fish that
Mhm.
angle out of the water, and will like jump out.
Anglefish.
Anglefish. There you go.
Might be angelfish. I'm not going to decode that right now. Yeah. So I mean, I think by and large, I think the new enemies fit very nicely with the old enemies, and is just a lot of fun.
Do you know what I also really look forward to each time? And this is saying something for me, is the encounters with Bowser Jr.
Okay, that's interesting.
Because what I think is really fun about them, and I've maybe only done 2, 3, I'm not even sure. But what I like about them is, just like so many other things in the game, there's variations on them. So,
Yeah.
it's not like Boom Boom where you're kind of going to do the same thing every time and maybe they'll fly or something like that. Yes, this is Bowser Jr. is going to get into a shell and just like spin around. But then
But the environment's
the
totally
environment
different, yeah.
goes crazy.
Right.
And that is like the first one, like you get really big and and then you get really small.
And then it switches, yeah.
And then the second one, like the terrain starts going like up and down, but then it changes viscosity. And
Yeah,
like
and then there's like floating like water bubbles that you're swimming through, or like there's water just on the ceiling, and yeah.
yeah, like that's the sort of thing that I think is really fun. The one that was kind of let down by was the like end of the airships.
The conveyor belts.
I don't get it.
I don't get it either. It's I don't like, is there a challenge in these things?
Yeah, because it seems like, so it's like a Bowser like machine
Yeah.
that is spitting out things at you onto like a conveyor belt.
Yeah.
And the
Sometimes
challenge,
they're bombs, sometimes they're enemies, like, but it's never like surprising. It's like a really readable pattern.
and the challenge is, I guess, supposed to be mirroring the original Super Mario Brothers, because basically it's
Sure.
like with those Bowsers or the Koopa encounters or whatever, where he's on the bridge and you have to jump over him or run under him, like learn the pattern and then hit the hammer on the other side to destroy the bridge. And so this, you have this Bowser mechanism that is sending enemies out or things out at you on a conveyor belt. And so each time I get fooled where it's like, oh, I'm supposed to like take this bomb and throw it into its mouth.
Yes, and
But-
then you're like, no, I just need to push the big red.
Yeah, I just
button.
need to push
Yeah.
I just needed to jump up on it and
Once.
push the
I
big
just
red
need to
button
do
once.
that once.
And it's kind of a dud.
I think that boss encounter happens 3 or 4 times throughout the game, and it does ramp up in difficulty. But even the most difficult one is a run straight for it, one shot, you don't screw it up ever experience. So like, yeah, I'll totally agree that like that is a bummer of a boss fight. The final Bowser boss fight, good, multiple stages to it. You have to apply different things that you've learned throughout that level and throughout the game in its entirety. Good. It is a good boss fight. Where are we? We've got a little outline here to sort of like help guide us here. So there's the different level types that we've touched on a little bit. But Mark, you mentioned the search party and how you use how like the online play helps you explore those.
Yeah, that's right. So search parties are levels where, well, one thing that I think is very cool about the game is like we talked about in Tuesday's episode, unlike traditional 2D Mario games or previous 2D Mario games, which progression was linear, you basically had to beat a level in order to advance. And if you couldn't beat that level, you were just stuck forever.
Right.
That is not the case in this game, which pulls much more, it feels much more like Super Mario 3D World, where there's a couple of times where it funnels you in and in order to advance, you have to do this thing.
So Super Mario 3D World, while it does appear that you can like walk freely, it is still linear. Like you still can't advance from, you can't skip level 2 and go right to 3 because like the path hasn't filled in until you've beaten the level.
Oh, for some reason I was thinking there were times where you could choose what levels you wanted to do, like very similar
it forks off.
Okay.
But like that's kind of it. Like you
Oh,
still
interesting. Okay.
You still mostly have to approach those games linearly.
Okay, so I guess in presentation it looks kind of similar to 3D World.
Yeah.
But it acts differently because you're able to, the worlds are kind of open areas that you can run around in, and there's secrets for you to discover. Like you encounter Captain Toad, or you might find a hidden area, or things like that. And so you can choose which levels you want to go to, much more like a 3D Mario game. And the way you advance is by collecting a certain number of like wonder seeds, and that'll open up like the next level.
Right. So some of the wonder seeds you can collect quickly by just like jumping into, like there's a Poplin house in every world where like he just gives you a wonder seed. You can buy a wonder seed at the shop. There are some of these like break time levels that are like single screen experiences that are really quick and just kind of like, here's one experience.
Here's one puzzle for you to figure out. Here's one
Sometimes
thing for you to
puzzle.
do. Yeah. Here's one thing for you to do, and you'll get this wonder seed. And there's this other type called Search Party where there's like wonder seed medallions that you have to pick up. But the levels I feel like are really designed to either be played with multiplayer, like local co-op, or I've been playing them online, and I think that's such a fun way to do it because you see little shadows like running around, people are leaving each other hints, people are like crouching a bunch in an area, and I really like that. But I'm curious, it seems like you've played mostly offline, and so how you've enjoyed those search party levels.
So the search party levels are actually the ones that I most frequently go into the online so I can see what other people are doing. They're tough. They can be tough to decode by yourself. And to the point where, I usually when I encounter a level, I'm like, I'm gonna get the wonder seeds in here, and I'm not always like, I'm gonna get everything and then move on. Sometimes I'm like, if I skip some of the 10 purple coin things, that's fine. But the search party in the lava level was the first one that I was like, I don't know where this fifth emblem is, and like I'm gonna move on. I'll come back later. So that's one that I have to revisit. But yeah, like they're really tricky because they're kind of that like Mario puzzle room sort of thing that I don't really think was popular until Mario Maker, right? Like I think Super Mario Maker invented this, or like the creators that were using the tools sort of invented this like tight puzzle box of a Mario level where like you just had to jump in the right places or like go down the pipes the right way or whatever to trigger very specific things happening. And it's not about platforming, and it's not like, it is really about exploring every inch of the space.
Yeah, I've really liked them. I understand the reason why they're there. I'm not that crazy about the Poplin houses where you just get a wonder seed for showing up.
I kind of wish it would happen faster.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You know what I mean?
It's like, if that's what this is going to be,
right.
I am kind of sometimes surprised at the amount of text. Like,
yes,
occasionally,
yeah,
like and I think it's, I guess, to explain to people who maybe this is their first Mario game or younger children to help them understand. But Prince Florian likes to talk sometimes.
He does like to talk sometimes. Never really more than like 3 or 4 lines at a time.
It's true.
But also, it's like you could have said that in one. You know what I mean?
Speaking of things that talk, I was skeptical
Flowers.
on the talking flowers in the trailers. When it was first revealed, I was like, I don't know that I like this.
Yeah.
I might turn these off because that is an option.
That is an option
You can't
if you
turn it
wanna do
off.
it. Yep.
I can't imagine this game without the talking flowers. I love them.
They're an integral part of the soundscape. They're an integral part of like the moment to moment experience. And they're also, for me, a trigger when I've done the thing that I'm supposed to do. Because there are sometimes when you encounter a flower, he'll say something as you run past. But there are times when like there is a flower there and you're like, he doesn't say anything. And you're like, well, wait a minute. I've got to like do something to make this guy talk. And, you know, that'll then like reveal a pipe or, you know, a purple coin or something I can push, something like that. But yeah, I really like them. It's just like a little cue of like, maybe there's something here, you know?
I like when they're like stuck in a block of ice and you get
Yeah,
them
me
out
too.
and they say something, or they're like underwater or
Yep.
hidden in an area. I don't know. Yeah, it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, they totally work for me. And I like that they're like, even when they're suffering, they're like pretty positive.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
it's a good it's a good dynamic.
While we're praising things,
Yes.
should we take a moment to praise a poplin?
Praise a poplin, Mark. I know you feel very strongly about the poplins.
I-
I like them, but I don't. They feel basically the same as toads to me. But
Yeah, see, that's very funny. I feel like they're like toads refined.
yes,
They're like-
the gentleman's toad.
they're
Yeah,
like-
I've heard you say it a couple times.
They're like, yeah, that's right. They're like Nintendo realized the mistake of toads, right?
there
like,
are still 3 playable toads in this game.
They're like, toads are like irredeemable monsters that
Okay.
we've created
Your friend Captain Toad in
and
there.
unleashed onto the world. And we're getting a chance to do a do-over
Okay.
with poplins.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a lot of things about toads and just make it a little bit nicer. Their voices, not as annoying.
This is true.
They yodel.
They do yodel.
How cute is that?
Yeah, it's pretty cute.
There's no question about whether their flowers are hats or part of their head. We know that it's part of their head.
So the game also specifies, you know, there are like little facts about like Mario and friends.
Uh-huh.
The game actually does say that the toads, that those are parts of their head.
Oh,
and
well, there we
not their
go.
hat. So
Okay.
like it's putting the debate to bed.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I just think that they're like really cute.
Uh-huh.
I like poplins a lot.
Now, there are some poplins that we meet a little bit later in the mushroom level, the fungi level of the Flower Kingdom, that have little pickaxes, like they're mining in the fungi mines, and that feels like they're treading on Toad territory to me. So there's a little bit where I'm like, hey, you know, work your own side of the street here,
Right.
guys,
Right.
because like Captain Toad, as previously mentioned, is in this game. You don't get to really do anything with him, which is kind of a bummer. But like that pickaxe, that's for me, that's him.
No, it's true. And look, I like to joke about toads being crimes against nature,
Yeah.
but you know, I like toads,
Mm.
and so I don't want poplins to
Replace
the toads. Yeah.
Actually, as we are on this topic of the toads and the playable characters, tell me a little bit about your experience with the play. Did you just always play as Mario?
I've mostly been playing as Mario. I
Yeah.
did like in the beginning switch, like I played as Daisy for a little while. I think maybe I played at least a level as all of them except Yoshi's. I have not played as Yoshi at all.
Yeah.
And I have not played as Nabbit at all.
Yeah, well, Yoshi and Nabbit, you know, they play differently. They cannot access the power-ups. So it does feel like it would be strange to play as them, because there would be so many things that you'd be locked out of if you're playing it by yourself as a Yoshi or a Nabbit. the version of this game where you can't turn into an elephant. What are we talking about? But I played a little bit with Sarah, where she was playing as Mario and I played as the classic green Yoshi, who by the way is just called Yoshi, right? It's Yoshi, yellow Yoshi, light blue Yoshi, and red Yoshi, I think. And then Nabbit. And it was fun to have one of us be a regular character and the other one not be. I found it odd that a Yoshi can't use a power up, he sure can accidentally collect it. Preventing Mario from getting it.
So like
it goes
just
into
by
reserve.
running into it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Feels like it should just like go right through him, right?
Yeah, it does. It does. If you can't, I mean, I guess if it goes into reserve, it's not, at least it's not being like wasted. But
yeah, that's true. Then you can still like use it all that way. But
yeah,
it's just like one more step where it's kind of just like,
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I haven't played local co-op at all.
Yeah.
Which I really want to do because I think it, just like with the new Super Mario Brothers games, I think it'll be a very different experience.
Yeah, and it's fun and way less chaotic than a new Super Mario Brothers game because you can't like get in each other's way basically. Although like the Yoshi plus Mario experience means that Mario keeps landing on the Yoshi's back and then like you got to jump off to be like no I don't want to do that, I want to play by myself. So like there is some element of like you're still kind of constantly interacting, but it is fun to approach the game with a different set of tools and be like, oh no, I'll just like you can't get around these spiky balls, I'll just slurp them up as Yoshi and like throw them back at the spikes that have been tossing them around. So it is a cool dynamic to have like a different move set for the Yoshis.
You finished the game. How did you play it? Like, did you just go straight through and not try to double back and find secrets in levels or get wonder seeds or wonder coins or whatever that you miss?
So I always tried to get the wonder seeds that were apparent from like the title screen of it. So if it shows 3 wonder seeds, I'm getting all 3 of those wonder seeds. If it shows 2, I'm getting both. I was not always getting secret exits out of levels, but sometimes I would see that like there was something beyond where the level was, and I would go back in to like try and find the second way through. But for the most part, I was kind of just mainlining it, right? Like I wasn't like going way back into like dig through every single thing, which is what I'm gonna do now to kind of clean up. But I did the first 3 worlds, and then you have like the rest of the Petal Islands become accessible to you, and you can just like do Petal Island straight through and choose each of the offshoots of worlds 4, 5, and 6 to really approach them in whatever order you want. But I cleaned up all of the Petal Islands first, and then went back and did the desert, the fungi mines, and then the lava level. But to answer a question that you didn't realize you had asked, how am I playing it? I'm using the Super NES controller. For
you
the
had
Nintendo
mentioned
Switch Online.
that
Yes.
you wanted to.
Yes.
How has that been?
Fantastic. So I enjoyed playing this game in handheld mode. I enjoyed playing this game, so using Joy-Cons. I enjoyed playing this game with the Pro Controller. And it's fascinating to hear the little chirps that both the Pro Controller and the Joy-Con can make that sound like there's a speaker in them, even though I know there's not. It's just the HD Rumble being magic. But the Super NES controller has all the buttons I need, and it's got that D-pad, baby, which is when I'm playing with the Pro Controller, I go back and forth between using the left thumbstick and the D-pad, and I just find neither of them to be like quite as precise as I want. But the Super NES controller is just mwah, it's like perfect. It's exactly what I want.
That's fun. I've been playing primarily in handheld mode, but that makes me want to try with a Super Nintendo controller.
You totally should. I was playing in bed last night, and I was playing in handheld mode and was like, no, you know what? I just set it up on like a book on my stomach and then use a Super NES controller to control it there. Because for me, like it's the way to play the game.
One thing that I don't feel like I've really expressed well enough, why I really like this game, is that I it really is constantly surprising me in
Yes.
a way that no Mario 2D platformer has ever done before.
And would you say those surprises are mostly Wonderflower related, or are there other surprises?
There's
too?
I feel like it's other like just like a lot of times it is Wonderflower related where I end up doing something that or turning into something that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
But the levels themselves a lot of times are like making me laugh or I'm
Yep.
just like kind of like delighted by what I'm seeing or experiencing. It's a different kind of joy than other 2D Mario platformers have brought me in the past.
Well, that's funny because I was actually just about to draw a parallel to like the original Super Mario Brothers, and I've been playing these games obviously for like 40 years, but like there's and I'm always trying to like figure out like where the joy in these games comes from, just because it feels like such a fundamental part of like my experience with video games. And like one of the arguments that I've always bought is that the original Super Mario Brothers is a comedy, right? That like the first thing you encounter looks like a mushroom and it kills you. Then you hit a little block and like a different mushroom comes out and this mushroom is good for you, right? So like right from the jump, it's like sending you these different expectations, these different messages about things that look the same. And then as you continue through World 1-1, they have these things where there's like the little like block steps that you have to like jump over. And the first time you encounter it, there's no pit in the middle. And then the second time there is a pit and you fall into it and you die, right? Like that the game is setting you up for all of these, like setting up expectations and subverting them. And that fundamentally that is a comedy move. And that is something that I don't feel like is super present in a lot of other games, and definitely not in games not coming from Nintendo. And this Super Mario Brothers Wonder feels to me like it is tapping into that same comedy instinct in a way that I don't know that we've seen since the original Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I think you're right. I think a lot of it is like subverting expectations
Mm-hmm.
or doing zigging when you expect it to zag.
Absolutely.
And the game
yes.
does that a ton, and it's fun each time because just like Super Mario Brothers, it feels like it's doing it in a fair way.
Yes.
Like the second time that you see those in Super Mario Brothers, that you see those bricks and there's a pit in the middle, it's visually different. You can tell that it's a
yes.
pit.
Yes.
You know, like so it's not like it's lying to you. It's just maybe
Right.
not what you were expecting to happen.
Absolutely.
And I think this game does that a lot, and that is really look, the art style is beautiful. It's super different from New Super Mario Brothers. This is the most colorful Mario's ever been. This is the most beautiful that these 2D games have ever looked. But I think what makes it feel the most fresh is it has that sense of humor back.
Yeah. Yeah. Are there other things that we want to touch on before I just praise the ending of this game?
The one thing I want you had mentioned secret exits before, and I have not found a single secret exit. But I'm also playing I am not going back at all. If I go through
Not
a
at
level
all,
and I
okay.
miss a Wonder Seed,
As
like
long as
I'm
you
just
have
moving
enough
forward.
seeds to
Exactly.
get to
Yeah,
them,
I'm
yeah.
just moving forward. And so, but one thing that I wish that these games would do, just like Super Mario World, is give a visual indicator if a level has a secret exit.
Let me just tell you, beat Bowser, get to the end, and then there's some kind of indicator.
Okay, great. That is actually why I have taken on this philosophy of ever since Odyssey.
Yes, Odyssey's a great example
It has
of this.
changed
yes.
the way that I approach these games because at the beginning of Odyssey, in a lot of Odyssey, but especially in the beginning, I was like, I'm going to try to get everything. I'm going to try to do it all.
Right.
And then you get to the end of Odyssey and it's like, surprise, even if you tried to get it all, you didn't.
Right.
And here's a bunch of things that kind of like are more helpful
Yes.
to
Like the checklist is
tools,
filled out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tools to help you explore the world. And that's great to know that that is the case here too.
Yeah,
because
it's not quite as dramatic as
Uh-huh.
that. It's just that there are now where there are worlds that you have not unlocked yet.
Yeah.
There are question marks on the map.
Okay, perfect.
So like you can see like, okay, I need to get over there, and like the secret exits and like secret worlds are all like linear enough
Uh-huh.
that like yet you know which one you need to go
Okay,
into to
great.
find it.
This is great. This is great.
So yeah, totally recommend. But not just straight mainlining the game, but like, yeah, you get to the end and then keep playing. Speaking of the end, and again, I'm not this. You can bail now if you want like absolutely zero. But I just want to speak to Nintendo's strength in their like big first party games, with their endings being satisfying and feeling like endings. Um, I've spoken many times about the ending of Super Mario 3D World, where Bowser turns into a cat. He gets giant, and he touches the cherries. He uses all the power ups, right? And chases you up this tower. And it's an epic, incredible moment, scored with this amazing music. And it's just like one of those, like, it's a heroic moment at the end of that game that feels as though it's informed by everything that came before. I feel the same way about the end of Tears of the Kingdom, where it's just like, oh yes, it every like moving or cool story beat or whatever from Tears of the Kingdom plays out in those final moments in that final Ganon battle, right? And I feel like Super Mario Brothers Wonder does that too. And I would love to talk specifics about how it does that, but I don't want to spoil that experience for anyone.
That is amazing to hear. It makes just another example of that I can think of from the Mario universes. I felt that same way about Odyssey.
Totally, yeah.
Where when the ending of that final sequence of Odyssey happens, and you're like, of course it was all building up to this.
Yes.
Like I am surprised, and yet in hindsight I shouldn't be.
Yeah, and that's truly that is the ending experience of Super Mario Brothers Wonder as well. Like I think they just do such a great job, and like we at some point you and I went through and ranked all the Bowser fights in Mario games, and one of the things that we would like ding them for was like this is just like you're fighting Bowser, and like that's not really what you're doing for most of the game. Most of the game you're like platforming. And so like a thing where you just have to like fight Bowser feels like a betrayal of what the game has been the whole time. And this is just absolutely not that.
Oh, I'm so excited, and maybe next news episode we'll be able to. I'm hoping I'll have beaten it by then, and we can maybe talk about it in more detail then.
Ooh, very good. A little tease. All right, Mark. Any final thoughts before we close out our conversation here?
No, I mean, just what a great game.
Yeah, what a fantastic game. I do I do think that if you were to like go back to 2017, right, and when we were like approaching the end of the year and being like, what's the better game? Is it Breath of the Wild or is it Odyssey? I could see like an argument for Odyssey. Here at the end of 2023, I'm like, yeah, Tears of the Kingdom is
Yeah, I think 2D Marios are just a different experience.
Absolutely.
But how crazy that 2023 is mirroring 2017, and that we have a new Zelda game and a new Mario game.
Well, and that's the first year of the Switch and what we perceive to be the final year of the Switch, right? It's a very it's always maybe an interesting time to be a Nintendo fan. But like, yeah, just seeing that this is like the second big gun that they've fired this year, in a year that also had a great Fire Emblem game and a great Pikmin game and like Metroid Prime Remastered. Like it's a good year for Switch.
Yeah.
And for first party Nintendo stuff. Even if it seems like the platform is like dying or languishing or something, like it's still got some incredible games on it. So, yep. All right, Mark, let's close this conversation out. And of course, as always, we are very, oh God. Of course, no. If you want to tell us about your experience playing Super Mario Brothers Wonder, get in the Discord. Email us, Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. Mark, I'm a mess. You want to take us out?
I've never done this before.
I know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Thank you so much to our 16-bit patrons, Connor McCabe, Patrice Millette, and David Hendley. Join our Discord, like Patrick said. Email or tweet at us for an invitation. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can find more of his music at 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Patrick Ellers, this is Mark Mitchell saying, I know how to say Patrick's last name. It's Ellers. It's not Allers. Right?
My last name was misspelled in the show notes for Video Games and Comedy Show this week. Thanks for listening.